Hey, it's Tyler. This is gonna be the 50 subscriber, now 52 subscriber, and climbing. AMA. Yeah, a little silly to do it for 50 people, but hey, if I had 50 people gathered to listen to me talk about something in person, that'd be really something. And with the amount of people that are actually commenting on my videos, responding to community posts and the like, that's kind of what it feels like. So thank you to all of you who subscribe and who subscribe from this point on and leave comments and whatnot. Um, that's, I think, the best part of YouTube isn't getting a million subscribers, 900,000 of whom are bots and never going to look at you and go, why did I subscribe to you? But, the people that you can have, deep and interesting conversations with. I recently watched a video by Zacho Aurelius, one of the guys I watch in the Gunpla modeling community. He made a video, a really unfortunate situation. His wife has cancer, and he was like, yeah, I debated not uploading this video because, I don't know how much people want to know about people's personal life. And for me personally, there's kind of that line between getting what do you call it, a parasocial relationship with someone you've never met before, and knowing how who they are informs the sort of content they're making, right? Um, Especially when we're making this kind of unscripted content and just shooting off the cuff. So yeah, I got a few comments on my YouTube and just from friends suggesting uh, different things. So let's start with Abe over at Talking About Games. How and when did you get started with HEMA? That's a tricky one. So I had to think about that one for a bit because that's I was like, how did I get started with HEMA? Um, Okay, as best I can remember it, back in high school, I took archery because we had an archery club, and I thought, ooh, that sounds cool. That sounds way cooler than like soccer. And we are a pretty small high school, so we didn't have a football team, we didn't have a baseball team or anything like that. So it was basically, of the extracurricular physical activities, archery seemed like the coolest one. uh, I started doing it. I had fun doing archery, but there was a lot of annoying dogma when you're doing competition archery. So things like don't do instinctive shooting, always anchor to the same, not just your same anchor point, but anchor to the instructor's same anchor point. Always go three fingers below. It was something weird because I shoot way better with one finger above the arrow and two fingers below. But they were like, no, 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 you have to shoot with three fingers below. And I'm like, but there's Olympic archers that. It was just that was like my introduction into learning what I hate from instructors. Um, so, and then I started looking and I was like, okay, well, I think fencing could also be cool. And apparently, we used to have a fencing club at this high school, but we don't anymore. So I started looking into that, and the more I did research into fencing, saber, epee, for all of the different subsects of it, none of it really made a lot of sense to me. If you don't know, in Olympic style fencing, there's the concept of right of way, which is the person that launches the attack. You, as the defender, cannot immediately launch a counterattack. You must defend yourself. So you get these suicidal, what in an actual fight would be a suicidally aggressive thing to do. Um, and if you're more athletic than the other guy, you're rewarded for it. Now, that being said, a lot of us HEMA guys ignore the fact that Olympic fencers are way more athletic than HEMA guys on average, and I mean part of that is they are specialized in competition. and competition drives that sort of athleticism. But another part is just the kind of crowd that HEMA attracts. So I started looking, what happened, looking at the history of fencing, because it's like, well, this used to be two people trying to kill each other. So yeah, what did happen? Going into the history of fencing and all that, and I end up finding a few YouTube channels. I don't know who I found first, but Scala Gladiatoria, Scalagrim back when his channel was still Scalagrim Nielsen, and Lindy Beige. The latter two, not they they don't go in great into the nuances, into the nitty gritty of HEMA, but they are great introductions to me as a total layman in high school. I have no idea what HEMA even is, to this is a thing that's out there. People are trying to recreate actual sword fighting. And Scala Gladiatoria, Matt Easton over there, of course, is one of the people who coined the term HEMA back in the 90s. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then after that, I looked around for schools because I was like, oh, there is a school. My options were in high school without a job were drive 30 minutes and pay $50 a month, or drive an hour and a half and pay $50 a month. So I was like, well, damn. But there's nothing stopping me from just watching what these people are doing and trying to recreate it. And even in the historical treatises, plenty of them recommend, they say, hey, in one of the people in the Lichtenauer tradition, they say, art without practice is useless, but practice without art is fine. Which is to say, if you put this book down right now, stop reading, and you just go out there and try to hit a resisting person with a stick, you're gonna get better at it. That progression's gonna be slow, and it was slow. I would say I've seen a lot more growth in the past few years than I had in the first 5 years of doing it. Part of that is doing it more consistently. Part of that is doing it with adults and not, because even as a senior in high school, a senior and junior in high school when I was doing it, so I've been doing it for 8 or 9 years on and off at this point. Um, oh God, no, more like 9 or 10 years on and off. Um, you know, uh, you're herding cats with high schoolers just as much as you are. Hey, don't kill each other. Stop that. Hey, what are you doing? Hey, all right, pay attention. Come over here. Trying to teach techniques while also trying to learn them because you're new to it as well. Um, and then as far as the wrestling components of HEMA, I've always, done backyard wrestling pretty much my whole life because, well, I grew up in the South. That's just something you do. I was into professional wrestling as a kid, still kind of am. I don't watch anything. I'm not up to date on anything, but I used to watch a lot of pro wrestling. Look into the history of pro wrestling. Oh, it used to be something called catch wrestling. Oh, catch wrestling used to be something called Lancashire wrestling. You go back far enough, and it's like we're back into HEMA again. Where now we're doing Lancashire wrestling is historical European wrestling. It's a historical European martial art. Part of the issue with that term, right? So that's how I got into catch wrestling and that subsect of HEMA, and then ringing and all of that. So yeah, long-winded way of explaining that. Getting to today, to a couple years ago, where I started teaching at Oklahoma State University, and got the club made official right after I graduated. So that I'm glad I'm still in town to continue that. Not a question, but Fabio Machado 2333 Says, got to your channel after watching that talk about crits and fumbles. He's referring to the one on Mr. Max's channel. You should go check that out if you haven't. Great video. Congrats from Brazil. Thank you very much. Darren says, video idea to tell some stories from your games. Yeah, again, not really a question, but I think I'll turn that into a question. So the thing that turned me into a game master, and that the moment I realized that, like, there's right and wrong ways to do at least game mastering. I hadn't, figured out the whole role play thing yet, because this was like freshman, sophomore. I would have been like 14. I was playing in a friend's tabletop game just after schools in high school. And I think we were playing 3.5 Dungeons and Dragons. I had a good experience with a different DM playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That was the first tabletop I ever played. I remember nothing about it because that was like 11 years ago. I'm trying to piece together what I remember of it. The details aren't really important. It was pretty cramp in general, but the most egregious thing about it, and like the moment that made me realize, okay, I'm gonna have to become a GM and figure out how this stuff works, because there's stuff in here that I enjoy that nothing else does, right? It's not a board game, video games can't replicate it. Nothing else does what tabletop RPGs do, even when they're bad. Even a subpar session of a tabletop RPG is oftentimes a lot better than a lot of other things you could be doing. Which is part of why it's so frustrating when it's sort of that paradox of like, come on, just push that little bit more and it could be good. It could be amazing, not just good. I was playing a character. I had to miss a day for whatever reason. I don't know exactly why. Maybe I had a dentist appointment or something, because I stayed after school because my mom worked late and couldn't pick me up, and we didn't have buses that ran to my neighborhood because we went to a really small, poor school. I missed the day, and then I come back the next week, and they go, "Oh, your character's dead." What? So they had just run the game without me. No problem, that's fine. But they actively made decisions for that character while I wasn't there that resulted in that character dying. And I was like, that's not, if I walked away from a video game and hit hit pause or log out or whatever, I'm not, the character isn't just AFK sitting there for you to just walk over to them and do whatever you want to them. They're not there anymore, right? You can only, so that sort of introduced me to the concept of, player agency, and that, the GM shouldn't just do whatever they want to do. So yeah, that was probably my first like awful GM experience. I don't remember much about it, to be that mad about it, and it was in high school. None of those people are probably the same as they are now, so none of them probably play tabletops anymore even. So yeah, that was just the first thing I thought of, reminiscing about high school. Let's see what else. Not a question, but we got to talking about what was I going to say? We got to talking about Terminator 2. How Terminator 2 was really awesome. A really good example of phenomenal pacing in a series. Really great pacing, and a show where you could argue that there's a wealth of interesting characters, um, not just limited to the main three, and characters that have very little screen time, uh, that have a lot of, I don't know what you could say. They have a lot of draw. They do a lot with a little in that movie. Not that it's a short movie, but right, the like the scene of the future war, staggering scene, awesome. The practical effects are amazing, but it's very short, and they don't need a lot to evoke a lot with that. That sort of got me thinking about the introductions to tabletops, not like introducing your friends to tabletop, but when you start a tabletop session, the like introduction, you start with that scene from the future war, that stark vision of the T-800 stomping on a human skull, and just this desolate wasteland, and then that's what you have to look forward to if you fail. uh, it doesn't need to be, in gross detail. You don't need to do these big exposition dumps. Even if it's going to be, a long thing, a long campaign, a long movie, or whatever, you can have just these little things here and there that evoke a lot. Um, so yeah, that we ended up talking when I was asking about AMAs. We ended up talking about movies and stuff that we like, because those inform how you run things. And we were talking in Mr. Max's chat as a comment that was kind of on one hand I kind of agree. On the other hand, it was I don't remember who made the comment, but it was people need to stop running tabletops like they're movies. And well, we weren't talking about running them like they're movies. We were talking specifically about crits in fiction, crits and crit fumbles in fiction. And at the end of the day, part of why I wanted to make this AMA video, so that you have some context, right? Because none of us exist in a vacuum. We cannot possibly make something entirely original unless you locked us in a basement and never gave us any access to any other creative medium, and all we had was just what's inside our own brain. We watch, and that's part of, that's why tropes exist, right? Because we see one person does something creative and original, 1,000 years ago, and that just exists forever now. That's in the cultural zeitgeist, and very often when people try to be too creative and they try to push entirely away from other mediums, yeah, you don't want to be a copycat. You don't want to be doing something one to one, and you don't even want to be doing something that's like just oh, this is like X, but Y. You've taken 90% of something and changed just a little bit. No, I mean, you want to change it a bit more than that. What's fair use, the 25% changed or something. Um, you want to change. Yeah, you don't want it to be one to one, obviously, but when we try to get too far away from the things we enjoy, what's the opposite of running a tabletop RPG inspired by a video game you enjoy or a movie you enjoy? Running a tabletop inspired by something you don't enjoy, or uninspired by something you don't enjoy? Yeah, if you like it, that's the right way. I maybe try to deconstruct, look into what you like out of that medium, and then try to find what works in the tabletop, right? But yeah, I wouldn't say totally throw out everything that's interesting about other mediums you like. Otherwise, what are you doing? Are you only taking inspiration from other tabletop sessions as far as you're running? Well, then you would have to only take inspiration from tabletop settings that don't themselves take inspiration from other. And if you look at them long enough, I bet I Look back at your own sessions. Even if you don't record them, talk with the other players. I'm pretty sure it won't take you more than 3 sessions for a player to go, oh, this reminded me of X, Y, or Z. It just happens. Because we're creatures of pattern recognition. We will inherently find a pattern and follow it and recreate it. So, yeah. Let me know if you guys have any other thoughts. This is fun to make. This is a variety channel. I mostly talk about tabletop RPGs and HEMA, but I've thought about making other stuff. I'm a fan of coffee. Got a Ethiopian light roast here from a local roaster, Aspen Coffee here in Stillwater. It's pretty good. The coffee rabbit hole is a deep one you can go into. I know Abraham is not a fan of coffee, but I would suggest that I forget his name. I'll have to find this. The man who did most of the studies linking, not most of, but the major study linking coffee to heart disease, recently admitted to just making that entire study up so that he could get basically promoted through academia, and he has no basis for any of that study. For you to have to, you would have to be drinking so much coffee, like, basically more than 3 cups a day is where it starts to be like, yeah, you should probably dial that back. Also into home brewing. I've got some cherry bounce fermenting in the other room, cooking, all that sorts of stuff. Yeah, so let me know. Let me know if you are interested in anything else. If you've got any other questions, I may make more of these just randomly. I don't know. 50 is just a fun, an excuse to make a video like this. So yeah, look forward to more videos. See ya.